Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men power want? More power.
My name is luca-zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
We're not afraid.
Hi everybody, this is luca-zanna, and you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on KTOX 1340 AM. Don't forget also, of course, to go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com. As you very well know, the purpose of this show is to learn from each other, try to do everything we can to retake our republic back, to defend our rights, to retake our rights. There are sometimes things that seems almost impossible to do, and don't get me wrong, we have the duty to do it. Even Washington, we know that pretty much seems almost like only an act of God can take it back, and I agree. But sometimes, we do what we can, and at the same time, we must do for sure one thing. We must start from our own communities. We must start from our own families. Because at the end of the day, we have the opportunity now, still we have time, to pretty much prepare for what's coming and what's already here. If you're listening to the show, unless you're somebody who like to laugh, make fun of us, that's fine. It's your right. But if you listen to the show, you know what's going on. You understand what type of political, economical, and also, social situation we are facing, and we're already living. Economic turmoil, it's already here. You may not see it, but it happened long time ago. We are in depression, guys. The economic situation is not going to get better. The inflation is already in. I go shopping around and I can see prices. I'm the guy who shops in the family, and it's amazing, okay? And this is nothing yet. More important, we understand these wars and rumors of wars. Come on, guys. We are pretty much already in World War III. It's only a question when we're going to have in our own, on our land, here. And all the other situations that you can imagine. And don't forget also, there are a lot of problems that we know very well coming from a situation that we cannot control, like, for example, the sun, the sort of EMP, natural EMP, electromagnetic field, they may really come. And honestly, Congress said that as much as they are not doing anything to reinforce the grid, pretty much it's only a question of when it's going to happen. So we need to prepare. We must prepare. And in the preparation business, I think really I have today one of the best sources, one of the best minds out there that I've been following, studying, reading his books. And I really want to share with you today because there is a lot of things we can learn and a lot of things we can prepare today, right now. I have the honor and pleasure to have with me Mr. Joel Skousen. Mr. Skousen, are you there?
I am. It's good to be with you, Luca.
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you very much. I know you're a busy man, and you are pretty much on big demand. You go everywhere. You have books. You have a DVD. And before I know a lot about you, but I think the best person to introduce yourself to the listeners, it's yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background politically, pretty much your studies. You call yourself like a political scientist, and everything pretty much you can tell us a little bit about you and your background, please.
Thank you, Luca. I started very early in life, about 17 years old. My uncle, W. Joel Skousen, was a great patriot, wrote the book The Naked Communist, about communist infiltration into the U.S. State Department and the loss of many liberties of various countries through the influence of communists in the State Department. After reading that book, I decided, we've got a problem internal to our government because there were obviously people who weren't communist in our government who were protecting the communists and allowing them to operate within the second floor of the State Department, helping to overthrow Batista. We lost Cuba. To overthrow Somoza, where we lost Nicaragua, and Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. And I eventually decided and learned that these were really the globalists had an agenda to use conflict creation and war to destabilize the world so that they could come in and save it. I initially started to go into the practice of law. My father was a lawyer, but he died when I was 17, and so none of our 10 children in the family went into law. We went our own way, and I got a degree in political science, but it was a very leftist-oriented degree, and I was a libertarian-oriented person, a conservative libertarian. And so I really decided that I wasn't going to practice law, but I would rather learn the trade of architecture and engineering so that I could design the kinds of high-security residences that I thought would be necessary to protect myself for what looked very clearly like a government that was going to compromise our liberty.
Okay.
About that time, the Vietnam War came along.
Wow.
And I went into the Marine Corps as a infantry officer first, got switched to the air wing side when I developed shin splints, a very severe case of shin splints, running in combat boots in training. They gave me the option to leave the Marine Corps or to go learn to fly, and so I chose to become a pilot and flew the F-4 and the A-4 Skyhawk. So I know a lot about how government works, how the military works, got out of the military after the Vietnam conflict, and started my own firm. I was really one of the pioneers in the survival movement clear back in 1979. I published my first book, The Secure Home, on how to design high-security residences and retreats. And then I worked for some 40 years and still do that, designing high-security residences and retreats all around the nation. But I also took of absence, Luca, in the 1980s to serve as the chairman of the Conservative National Committee in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And at that same time, I was editor of the Conservative Digest under Richard Viguerie. I also traveled extensively in Latin America and Central America, lived in Uruguay and in Argentina for a few years, also in Guatemala and El Salvador, where I helped worked as a political advisor for the Arena Party in El Salvador and helped in establishing many of the libertarian parties in Guatemala.
Wow.
So I've had significant experience in world affairs. I speak multiple foreign languages and thus read a lot of news services around the world to avoid the kind of controlled news that we get here in the United States. And then in 1998, I started, because of my experience in Washington, I actually started this newsletter, the World Affairs Briefing, in 1984 when I was in Washington. I let it go for several years because of the difficulty of publishing paper products while I was still trying to work in my architectural field. But around the year Y2K, when it came up, Dr. Gary North, who was really the leader of the Y2K preparedness movement, mm-hmm. asked me to come on board as a consultant to help people understand the principles of where to relocate for security in case there's a social meltdown. And so I began, because of my experience working all around North America, designing high-security homes, I found I had the expertise to help people understand the principles of strategic relocation and to help analyze the pros and cons of various areas in the country. And that led to my publishing of the book, my second book, Strategic Relocation, North American Guide to Safe Places, in the year 2000.
Yes.
And I've also started up my newsletter again, the World Affairs Brief, which has been in continuous publication since 1999. And so I've got almost 20 years analyzing the world situation from a conservative libertarian point of view, and that's where we stand today on my background.
Perfect. By the way, guys, if you're listening or if you're just tuning in right now, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna, and the special guest today I have the honor to have with me is Mr. Joel Skousen. And very important, by the way, all the things you said First of all, there is a website that I invite everybody to go because there is a lot of information. And more important, I really suggest you to get these books. And I'm not even here, I'm not getting paid. I tell you as a heart of love, these books can be the most priceless values for your family, for your community. Because at the end of the day, remember, the government is not going to take care of you, okay? This is not going to happen. We know very well. The government will take care of itself if it can. What we got to do here, we got to count on each other, we got to count on our neighbors, and we got to count on your family. So please go to joelskousen.com. And by the way, if you go to today's show, you will go to the page. I always post the page, lovegunsfreedom.com. I will put a link directly to Mr. Skousen website. Pretty impressive background, Mr. Skousen. Now, I have a question, more than a question. You know, there are so many questions. Let me start with one, first of all. You were saying your background in the military, of course, and then you started as consultant, as pretty much in the creation, in the design of home security. If you can give us pretty much a basic, I know it would take a book, you wrote a book about that, by the way, the secure home, but as a general basic foundation, if somebody needs to start to look for a new place where to move, let's start first of all from the United States. In your opinion, what are the three first states, the best states, if you can consider according to your parameters, that you would suggest to relocate? If you can give us at least 3 or 4 states. And
well, the highest rated, first is a bit of background. We have to understand there are a lot of threats that require relocation. The big damage, I don't care whether the threat is war or earthquake or tornadoes or economic collapse. The big problem that we all face is high-density population areas. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's high-density populations that are your big threat because in any cutoff of society from the infrastructure, government infrastructure, of which you're totally dependent upon in a high-density urban area, all of a sudden, nobody has any food, nobody has any water, nobody has any way to get those things. They can't grow a garden instantly. They can't get water out of the ground. They go into a panic mode, and you have instant social unrest. And so my basic focus in the book Strategic Relocation is, first of all, understand the threats of high-density urban areas. In contrast to that, people don't have much choice because, they must stay generally within population centers because that's where the jobs are. Mm-hmm. So that's the major conflict here. So as I talked in the Y2K controversy, I encouraged people, I said, don't get outside your financial lifeline. If self-sufficiency and rural living can be very expensive just because it takes a lot of money to have the equipment, the tools, and the solar and the generators to run in a self-sufficient manner. You can't afford to get beyond your financial lifeline. And a lot of people did in Y2K. They went out and sold everything, quit their job, moved to a rural country, and quickly ran out of money. And I was consulting with a lot of people afterwards about, how to get reintegrated back into society in a way in which you can do both. Mm-hmm. And so most people have to stay within society because of their job, but relocation, first of all, the first step is probably for most people to relocate to the periphery of urban areas so that you're not in the middle of it. Yes. You're at the edge of it so that if things do break down, you can get out without having to transverse, 20 miles of traffic areas in the LA basin, for example, or Phoenix before you can get to places that you set up for a retreat.
Yes.
So for those people who are retired, for those people who have the flexibility of a job situation whereby they can move, they can relocate permanently, then my highest rated areas are in the what I call the Intermountain West. The lowest rated areas are generally in the East Coast area where your population densities are up to 1,000 per square mile. Mm-hmm. In the Intermountain West, average population density is about 35 people per square mile. A big difference. My top-rated areas states are Utah and Idaho, both 5-star rated states. Mm. And one of the reasons why they're very, very highly rated is that they are hundreds of miles through trackless desert or mountains from Denver, from San Francisco, from Los Angeles, from Seattle. There's just an awful lot of dry desert country between there, which means it is going to be very difficult for social unrest to reach these intermountain areas in a crisis. So those are my highest rated areas. Now, that doesn't mean that people can't find security much closer to home. It's just that you have to realize that you have to look at what I call specific site criteria to avoid the paths of social unrest will lead the cities. Now, you're in northern Arizona, is that correct?
Yes, northwest Arizona, let's say exactly Mojave County.
Mojave County.
Yeah.
So, you see, there are really no big areas except for, I guess the Las Vegas area is probably the closest.
Las Vegas areas, yes.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this area where you are at, for example, is that your major threat area comes from the LA Basin.
Yes.
And from the Phoenix area, and there are really only 2 or 3 major highways that lead out of those areas toward the higher safety to the north in the Intermountain West. Mm-hmm. There's I-5, there's Highway 93 leaving out of Vegas into the Nevada desert, and there's Highway 89 leading north from Flagstaff to Utah that goes around the Grand Canyon. But that Grand Canyon's a major blocking effect that channels the traffic either to the left through, Bullhead City and Las Vegas, or up 89 through Page, Arizona, into Utah. And so I think, first of all, those highways, of course, are going to be very, very clogged. It's very difficult for people to get around without those 2 highways. But to a certain extent, they're going to stop a lot of refugee traffic going very far north just because of those blockages. Mm-hmm. And so people, when they're thinking about getting out of high-density areas, they have to think about those different routes. I think because of the fact that there's only these 2 or 3 routes leading northward to safety, that people have to have advance warning. You just don't want to be on the last train out of town. You have to prepare in advance with fuel, with a retreat place, even if it's joining forces with friends or family. If you can't afford to do it yourself, but you have to have a place to go, and you have to be able to stockpile fuel either in your home so that you don't have to go line up at the gas station in a panic where everyone else is trying to get fuel to get out of town.
Mr. Skousen, let me interrupt 1 second. Sometimes I talk about these things with friends, family, and also sometimes with people that we just talk. And a lot of people understand it. Right now, honestly, if you're not smelling what type of dangers we are facing is so close. But regardless, it's your duty, but also it's your right to just ignore it. All I want to say for the people that are still pretty much in denial, and they may smile at this and keep going with their driving and go to sip in their coffee or whatever. Guys, my family went through this. World War II in Anzio, Rome area, my family had to live in pretty much in the wilderness for months. And we never really felt it. We never really tasted the bitterness to live like animals, to eat grass, to eat things that normally you wouldn't eat, to understand that maybe today could be your last meal. I mean, the point is, if you believe in God, and this is, of course, I'm not trying to preach you guys, but if you believe in God, you know also that it is not your right to take your life. And I'm not afraid of dying. That's not the point. You know very well what I think about that. But I'm afraid to be left here in hell. And as human beings, we have dignity. And also we have the duty to take care of ourselves and to live with some basic human rights conditions. So what we're trying to do here is not try to scare you out, but to try to put in your brain that time is the essence, and we never know when things can change. And when things going to happen, like when you see in these movies, that to look for a gallon of water, people kill themselves, or to look for gasoline, you have to stay 6 hours pretty much waiting, and you never know if you're going to make it. I I mean, guys, we have the opportunity now to prepare yourself. So I really say, please listen carefully, have an open mind, and more important, try to get the books on Mr. Skousen. And what I really like about these books, especially this one we're talking right now, strategic relocation, everything is saying is so detailed. Every area is pretty much divided with different criteria. And it's not just, of course, the weather or even the weather, but also the violent crime, also the economic development, what type of freedoms you can get. I mean, there is a very thrill job, I mean, to understand. And, you know, there's never going to be a perfect place because we're still living on planet Earth after all, but at least we can start to do the best we can to try to take care of our families. Mr. Skousen, I really like, by the way, when you break down the areas, also considering many aspects, for example, even the aspect like nuclear power, because to have a nuclear power close to you, especially if there is some sort of a natural disaster, could be a very dangerous. I mean, even some great area or even military bases, for example. What do you think about that? How can you articulate?
Well, that's right, Luca. Nuclear weapons, in fact, are much less dangerous to your long-term health than a meltdown of a nuclear power plant. Mm-hmm. Because gamma radiation dissipates within 2 to 3 weeks in a nuclear explosion. But the long-term isotopes left over from a nuclear power plant meltdown last for 30 to 60 years and can give a lot of long-term damage. So, you know, the nuclear power plants in the Phoenix area are a danger to that area. There are not many more out west. Most of the power plants are out east. They're shutting down. A lot of them in the west and in the California coast as well. So even though I'm in favor of nuclear power as a very inexpensive and clean energy source, it is a danger in a war scenario. And I'm not sure, frankly, and I point this out in strategic relocation, that the Russians or Chinese intend to attack nuclear power plants. I don't think they do initially, at least, because their strategy really is to target the U.S. military and U.S. missile silos so that they can blackmail us into submission. Neither of these countries can sustain themselves without Western trade and technology. So they don't want to destroy these countries. They want to take down the U.S. military. And unfortunately, our government is disarming at an alarming rate and setting us up, I think, for that kind of a military takedown. I explain that in quite detail in my World Affairs brief as well as in strategic relocation. But I think that's our major problem, is that our government, if they betray our military by not allowing us to launch on warning in a missile attack, we could have our military decapitated. I think our globalist leaders would, in fact, come out of their bunkers. I mean, they know this attack is coming. That's why they're building deep underground bunkers and new ones as we speak. They'll come out of their bunkers and say, well, gee, we didn't know about this. The Russians and Chinese deceived us. But now our only hope is to create a militarized global government in order to prosecute this war. And we'll end up losing our liberties through a war which they bring upon us by purposeful disarming and setting us up for a nuclear first strike. I think, of course, if we don't have an economic meltdown before that time, we certainly will at the time of war, because Russian and Chinese military doctrine states that there will be a nuclear or EMP strike minutes before the physical strike on the military, so as to cause the maximum amount of disruption. Without electrical power, there's going to be social unrest in all of the U.S. cities, and very difficult to survive in those cities. It'll be a Mad Max scenario, I think, unless people can get out of those cities and have places to retreat to.
Mr. Skousen, I would like to share with you my personal, humble idea, opinion, or fears that we're going to do. Even I'm not really, I'm not going to try to look like I'm not afraid, but I understand that This is part of our existence and our challenge, our trial. So I'm not really afraid of this. I'm just fearful, first of all, who's coming after us. And more important, I'm afraid as Americans, as human beings also, that we could stop this. But unfortunately, people sometimes they seem to be too busy or too scared to even face this reality. Now, I'll tell you my little general picture and tell me if I'm really off or maybe I'm just, reading too many books. First of all, I believe our biggest danger, it's already here. The walls. We have within our walls, we have our traders. And I'm not just saying one trader. It's been, as you said, the Communist Party has been infiltrating this country since way before Obama. Okay, this has happened a long time ago. Now, honestly, I think they are finalizing their dream. And they have pretty much the big Manchurian candidate directly in the locked room, the glass room where there are all the controlled bottoms. That's my opinion. I really stay firm behind it. But this didn't happen by accident. As you said, they need to create a global government. To create a global government, they must destroy America, and not just economically or morally. Right? They already done that. They need to destroy also America militarily. Now, I would like to remind to the listeners that for the first time in American history, we have a president or somebody acting as a president, Mr. Obama, that pretty much allow FEMA to have a special agreement with the Russian troops that in 2013 this agreement was signed, where pretty much in case of any emergency, national emergency, the Russian troops will come on U.S. soil, and they're already here. Are you aware of that, Mr. Skousen?
I'll comment about that when you finish your...
Okay. So first of all, we already have this sort of connection. Then we have Chinese troops in Hawaii since the last couple of years doing joint exercises with our military. As Mr. Skousen said, we have the lowest level of pretty much army and national security. I mean, talking about our defenses, our national defenses, all our troops. They are like the lowest level, like before World War II. Then this unilaterally treaty, or pretty much Obama just removing our nuclear advantage. It's pretty much they completely decapitate us, our nuclear strength. We know very well that China, meanwhile, has been acquiring through the latest administration, started with the Clinton, to have our technology. So we do not have anymore the technology edge. Now we have one huge debt that pretty much is being created and planned by the globalist elites in our government to put us in submission, in bondage, not just with the private Federal Reserve, but also with China as creditors. Now they create this sort of also moral opportunity for Russia and China. China because pretty much we owe them money, and Russia because we are minding their business in Ukraine. Now, whenever they need to attack us, they will have the moral edge. They will have the high stand. They don't want to destroy this country. They want to take over because they need to colonize, especially the Chinese. They need land. They need resources. And these are the collaterals. Now, there is pretty much the situation that we will face one day, that after the first strike maybe, or whenever strike is going to happen. Remember, there was a video from FBI agent Larry Gradwell. It was a Bill Ayers Weather Underground pretty much meeting, where they have this meeting where they wanted to plan how to take over America. And I will play this later again. And their plan was, first of all, to invite all the foreign countries pretty much sympathetic to their political agenda, their communist agenda, like the Russians, like the Nicaraguans, like the Venezuelans, like the Cubans. And then at that point, the Chinese divide America in different regions, pretty much is already there, the FEMA regions, and then get the 25, 30 millions of people like us that we will never go down with the new world order agenda, and they put us in camps and they will kill us all. This is my humble opinion. What do you think about this?
Well, that's a long scenario to comment on, but you have some very good points. I do have a little bit different view in a few different areas. First of all, I do not think, and I've done a lot of investigation about this in my World Affairs Brief, but there's been a lot of hype about foreign troops in the country. There, in fact, have never been over 100 Russian troops doing joint military training at any one time in the nation. And the FEMA flack about having a deal with Russia has never gone into effect. I don't think it ever will go into effect. A lot of what the government does is to provoke with disinformation kind of a firestorm of controversy within the conservative side of the internet. And a lot of this is done to track, with the NSA equipment, to track who reacts to this and who spreads it around. And they build their lists of dissidents on the right with this kind of disinformation.
Okay.
And I think it's very important to realize that the more credible scenario, I think, is that the U.S. is militarizing our own police, hiring more and more thuggish ex-military people into police forces. I think there'll be many, many more. They'll be clearly able to take down dissidents using our own internal corrupt police departments, and then the necessity. For example, once Russia and China attack the United States, there's no way the U.S. would ever accept, foreign troops, especially, from these communist-backed or based countries to come in and take down American dissidents. I think that the United States, under globalism, will do it on their own to our own people, just as Nazi Germany used their own brown shirts and shock troops to take down their own people. I think it's very important to understand that our government is setting us up for an initial first strike, and I pointed out in my writings about PDD 60. This is Presidential Decision Directive 60, signed in 1997 by President Clinton. This instructed our nuclear forces to not rely on launch on warning, but to prepare to absorb a nuclear first strike and then retaliate afterwards. General Butch Neal at the time said, retaliate with what?
Yeah.
Once you allow a first strike to fall, all our missile silos are gone, every one of them, and our military bases have been hit. And I think the globalists are knowing that that strike is coming. That's why they're building huge underground bunkers, even new bunkers. They've abandoned essentially Cheyenne Mountain and built a lot more secret bunkers. Knowing that Cheyenne Mountain is going to be hit, they intend to survive, and they aren't warning the American people about what they themselves are planning for. I know, being one of the top designers at high-security residences and retreats, that a lot of ex-DEA, CIA, and FBI higher-ups, when they retire, they are having bunkers built in the bottom of their homes in Colorado and other places because they know something big is coming.
Wow.
Something very destructive. So I think what's going to happen, because of PDD 60, I think our military forces, even though they think that they are still going to do launch on warning, and if your listeners don't know what that is, that means when our satellites detect a Russian, Chinese nuclear attack or North Korean attack on America, we can launch our missiles before those missiles arrive on target. We can launch our missiles, and so their missiles incoming hit empty silos. Our missiles are already in the air being retargeted on their facilities, and so the one who launches second in a nuclear scenario wins rather than the one who launches first. But if the U.S., in fact, doesn't allow our launch codes to go out to our missiles and forces our military to absorb the nuclear first strike, then we've really decapitated our own military, and our leaders come out of their bunkers and say, wow, we've lost our military ability to respond. Our only solution now is that we must form a militarized global government to prosecute this war. And I personally think, Luca, that they've got a lot of secret weapon system they've been developing that they will not use to defend America, but they will pull them out and use them to stop any further attacks once they've convinced everyone to go into this global new world order, this militarized government. They'll bring out space-based interceptors and other things to keep any further nuclear attacks occurring while they regroup under a NATO-based European army. They're already talking about doing an EU army for global reaction. It's getting a lot of flack in Europe, but that's already being floated. So that's how I believe the scenario will come out. In fact, I think that North Korea is probably going to be the trigger event for World War III. There has to be a reason to explain why the United States treats North Korea with complete permissiveness.
Mm-hmm.
It has nuclear weapons. It has missiles to deliver them. And yet we claim there's no regime change needed. There's no military option on the table for North Korea. And yet compare that to Iran. Doesn't even have a nuclear weapon yet. Only has regional missiles, fairly minor capability. And yet we keep demanding that Iran be taken down. And Israel, of course, has been tasked by the globalists to attack Iran. There's right now a bunch of political theater going on where Israel is pretending like he's got a war going on with Obama. And there's lots of disinformation being planted about Obama trying to get this nuclear deal with Iran. That's really just political theater right now to make it appear as if the U.S. is not in favor of attacking Iran when, in fact, it is part of the globalist agenda. Not because that's going to trigger World War III. Russia and China will not come to the rescue of either Syria or Iran any more than they did of Iraq. They're more ready, first of all, to take on the West. Their newest weapon systems won't be going online until the beginning of next decade. So we're really going to see a long, slow build-up to the war. Russia, for example, uses these Middle East wars where we attack Iraq and Syria and other places like that. They use it to eavesdrop on our military communications and develop their own electronic jamming systems. You know, the U.S. has a cakewalk when we go into these relatively primitive military countries and attack. But going up against Russia and China someday, who are copying all of our electronic jamming type equipment and use EMP and other things, we're going to have a real difficult battle with that. And I think our globalist leaders are, in fact, intending us to take the hit, the first hit, so that they can justify this new global military. But they've got a lot of secret weapon systems that I think they're going to bring to bear. My personal theory is also that the U.S. in the middle of World War III will cut a deal with China to attack Russia's rear, just like we cut a deal with Russia to attack, Hitler's rear, so that Hitler was finally eliminated. But I think Russia will be eliminated in the Third World War, and then China will become the new Cold War enemy. The globalists will love that because that will justify keeping the global military together, not giving back individual sovereignty because of the great threat of China as the new Cold War enemy after World War III.
Mr. Skousen, I would like to interact 1 second. There is another, of course, now we are talking about scenarios, okay? And only God knows really how all this is going to happen. But for sure something, and I say for sure, I always hope it's not going to happen. But unfortunately, logic, and all the evidence, they're bringing us that we are going to face something that no other country probably, or never this generation, or any other American generations ever faced. Now, things may be different. Maybe the Russians, they're not going to be the ones. At the same time, I also say, let's look at everything. Probably we don't have many troops. All I know that we are facing right now something that is pretty much black and white. We have a man that is doing everything he can in the White House to pretty much weaken our defenses. I mean, are you familiar, Mr. Skousen, with Obama shutting down the Southern Air Defense System? That was in 2013. I mean, this is pretty much something that now we have to rely on Mexico. And by the way, we may not have Russians, but according to the North American agreement, we already have this sort of collaboration between Canadian troops and Mexican troops, also to be used for the common perimeter of the North America. So what do you think about this also shutting down the Southern Air Defense System by Obama in 2013?
No, it actually didn't occur. That was disinformation on the net.
Good.
And there's an awful lot of that going on. Remember, Luca, that Obama isn't a communist anymore.
Okay.
He was raised as a communist. He doesn't have an agenda. He isn't religious. He isn't Christian. He isn't Muslim. He's become a puppet of the globalists.
Yes, I agree with you completely.
And, he takes orders from advisors. There's globalist foreign policy advisors aligned with the Council on Foreign Relations, and there are very leftist domestic foreign policy advisors. But this guy sits and takes orders. Doesn't have an agenda himself. He's got many skeletons in his closet, from his illegal background to his false Social Security card to his former stint with the CIA and other things, that they've got a lock hold on him. He can't do anything except what they tell him to do.
Yes.
But George W. Bush was just as much a globalist puppet. He
Yes.
wasn't running the country. His main handler was Dick Cheney, a major globalist. When he was vice president, had a staff of over 600 instead of the normal 25 for a vice president.
Wow.
But there's a tremendous amount of disinformation about loose nukes, about the South Carolina lost nuke incidents. All of that was completely bogus. We have to be careful. There are government disinformation evidence planting false stories throughout the internet. One of the things I try to do in my World Affairs Brief is really check those things out and find out what is going on in reality.
Good. And I'm glad. That's why this show for me is so important, because I keep learning, and first of all, learn from my guest, and also I like to learn from every one of us. Now, the point is, guys, we have now still the time to try to do whatever we can to be prepared, because always going to be the Russians, always going to be the Chinese, always going to be Homeland Security with all these billions of rounds and armored vehicles. The point, something, it's happening. And the economic situation, we see it. It's crumbling. The numbers, they are not there. And more important now, another topic I would like to touch with Mr. Skousen. We are no more in a republic. In my humble opinion, according to the facts that I'm reading, when I studied the history of this country before I became a citizen, and during also my study to become a citizen, we're supposed to have been a republic with 3 different branches. Now, guys, regardless if you are leaning left, right, center, doesn't matter. If you believe that we have a republic with independent branches of government, we already lost that. Right now, in my opinion, we are living a new tyranny. And pretty much we're at the time of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. What do you think about that? Are we still in a republic, or we are living under some sort of the new empire with Obama giving orders and ignoring Congress?
Well, I agree completely that the Constitution is dead. They only honor it when it is convenient. If you end up being on the wrong side of their agenda, you can be locked away without any habeas corpus rights, without any speedy trial provisions. All they have to do is, they don't have to justify anything. They can just lock you away. They have secret black sites now. Chicago's not the only one. So you're absolutely right, as I say, but Obama isn't running this show.
No.
The globalists, in fact, run both major political parties. We've seen this in the recent betrayal of John Boehner of the executive amnesty order, a complete and utter betrayal by both Senator McConnell in the Senate and John Boehner in the House.
Yes.
It's just despicable what's happened. So, but you're right, as a political scientist on the libertarian conservative side, I've long written in my works about the fact of we're not supposed to be a raw democracy. That's not what the Constitution established. It was a constitutionally limited representative republic, and where we have a constitution which limits the lawmaking power, and those limits have been interpreted away. It's going to be very difficult to restore that because of the fact that we have so much case law which interprets. The lawyers don't care if you want the Constitution restored. They know how to interpret it.
Yes. And I would like to say something about the communism. Guys, if you learn a little bit, communism was created, financed by bankers. And the reason why, it's a good way pretty much to destroy the competition. That's the bottom line. So even when we have somebody like Obama that is acting like a communist, after all, as Mr. Skousen said, it is not doing this because they want to redistribute all this wealth to the people. It's pretty much, it's another way to control and destroy the competition. And at the end of the day, communism was financed by the international bankers. The Bolshevik revolution would have not even continued if it wasn't financed by the international bankers. So Obama even wants to look around like is Mr. Che Guevara or some sort of a red hat beret. After all, he's working for the same bankers, the Bushes and the Clinton, and pretty much almost every other president in the last 40 years. They've been, since JFK was the last one, in my opinion, that tried at least to warn us on some area, even of course with his faults, with his imperfections, but it wasn't an accident that he got killed 2 weeks pretty much after his executive order that he was trying to put out to retake control of the currency. Now, just to change 1 second approach, what can we do to, in your opinion, as a regular person, first of all, to try to be proactive in retake this republic back, and at the same time to do everything? I know it's probably a big question, especially for the end of the show, but at the same time to try to take care of our family. What can we do?
Well, first of all, let me just make a couple of comments about your introductory comments. In the first place, it isn't just bankers that are the problem. It is globalists,
yes,
who have taken control of the money and therefore made them wealthy through control of certain banks, especially the 6 major banks. Mm-hmm. But just being wealthy or just being a banker doesn't mean it's necessarily evil. It has to be tied to globalism. There is an evil agenda. It's been going on for centuries. They did finance the Bolshevik Revolution, and they did so for some very complex reasons. But most of all, this is to create conflict through wars, because through wars you can create enough destruction and catastrophe that you can talk people into anything almost.
Yes.
In the aftermath of war, rather than having to convince them at the ballot box. But in terms of, given that we're dealing with a massive conspiracy of power that controls both major parties, and given that most of even our good people, especially the Christians in this nation, have a very poor track record of being able to see deception in wolves in sheep's clothing. You can get a George W. Bush proclaiming to be a Christian. He can deceive a lot of people. I think they chose George W. Bush specifically because he was a Republican and a Christian, and that he could deceive the people who would most reject those things if it were done by a Democrat. Mm-hmm. They're very adept at this. Yes. I think, in fact, they're going to give us another Republican in 2016. It won't be Hillary Clinton. It'll be another compromised Republican, because that's the best way to undo all of the growing backlash against Obama, is to give them a Jeb W. Bush or a Chris Christie or a controlled Republican like that.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of what do we do, I personally, Luca, am very pessimistic about being able to restore the original republic. Mm. And the reason I say that is because, first of all, we have a nearly corrupt majority of people who love their benefits, even those that aren't taking benefits. There's a lot of well-to-do people who support public benefits for foreign aid and all of these other personal things, for National Public Radio and other things, because they're not having to pay. They want to force everyone else to pay. And it's this socialist agenda that is so attractive because we don't have to pay for public schooling. We force everybody else to pay for it. Yeah. So we get these lavish schools that we don't have to pay for. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very enticing. And I just don't think you undo that by the ballot box once you've lost the constitutional restrictions. Yeah. You basically have to make it illegal so that even if a communist gets elected, he can't do anything because it's against the Constitution to do it. And of course, you have to have courts that uphold the Constitution, which we do not. So we now have controlled courts. We have about 75% of Congress that they have enough dirt on that they can control. We have controlled executive. And even most state governments are very much controlled by this same agenda and corrupt. They start surveilling state senators and state governors early on so that as they progress up the political ladder, they've got dirt on them,
Yes.
and they can keep them under control. So first of all, what I think is we ought not to count on winning back the nation as a whole for liberty. I think at best we're going to be able to create pockets of resistance and liberty to the New World Order.
Yes.
And that's one of the silver linings, I think, about the coming war that's going to come, that the globalists are going to bring upon us. And Russia and China are not directly controlled by the globalists, but they are inducing this strike by creating weakness, by disarming when they should be arming, inviting this strike, and then provoking it in different ways, as in Ukraine and other things that you pointed out. But the silver lining is that in a war of chaos and social unrest, the good people who are awake, who are now distributed evenly around the United States, they all feel alone. You and I feel alone. You know, even in conservative Utah or Idaho, you're still, the majority of people, even though they may claim to be conservative, are clueless about the secret combinations of power that run this country. And, but I think in a war, the good people will be driven out of the major cities. There'll no longer be jobs to hold them.
Yeah.
There'll only be threats. And I think by the inspiration of God, a lot of people are going to find their way to these safer areas of the country, and there will be new majorities formed. And if we enlighten and work to enlighten our conservative and libertarian constituencies so they understand what it takes to rebuild this republic, at least to pockets of republic, a Western states coalition, for example, that can fight against the New World Order. You know, they have to play lip service to democracy. And if we have new majorities in these areas that won't go along with the globalist agenda, to a certain extent they have to respect that. There'll be time that can be bought, in other words, to build and consolidate these majorities. So that's my hope, that what you and I are doing, Luca, is to try to make people realize, don't spin your wheels trying to control a Congress which is already lost, or a presidency which is already compromised, where the media is compromised. We need to affect our efforts in local politics, to have local principled people, to get rid of thuggish police. I noticed in your website, in the blog that was following the comments about the Bullhead City Police and all the corruption going on there. It's the same with the Las Vegas police. We need to try to cull out those thuggish police people. We need to have dependable sheriffs that won't betray us, that won't go along with federal government, dependable local officials that will defend the Second Amendment and our ability to defend ourselves.
I completely agree with you, by the way, and we need to start to look in our counties, and there is also, I will talk on this show, we have also a guest talking about the Constitutional County Project. I think it's pretty much
Navajo County in Arizona.
Yes, yeah. Navajo County, Arizona, great place, and I think that could be really much the antidote against this virus of this New World Order. We need to start from small areas, decentralizing from Washington, and think that America, it's wherever we are. We can bring back the America of our founding fathers in our communities. We don't need to change and, pretty much try to bring back to sanity a few hundreds of congressmen that already been pretty much paid off or compromised. Instead, in our counties, we can start to work with our county sheriff, with our county supervisor, with our system, judicial system, and bring good people back into these positions, and we can still live with an educated population, backing them up as America used to be. I want to say, first of all, thank you very much, Mr. Skousen, and I want to remind one more time your website and the beautiful books that you have there. And please go ahead. I want to give you the floor for the last 2 minutes. Talk everywhere with people. They can reach you, we can reach you, and how we can buy your books.
Thank you. My main website is www.joelskousen.com. Skousen is Skousen. And that's where all of my books are covered. But we can also go to my other website, worldaffairsbrief.com, where I talk about the world situation, and people can get a free sample copy by emailing me at editor@worldaffairsbrief.com.
Perfect. And I suggest you seriously to take a look all his books. The best one, in my opinion, I mean, they're all great. They are different topics. But I like also very much The Secure Home. I mean, that was something that I can see also your expertise in engineering. And there was something that I don't have the time to talk right now in this hour. I may maybe read an extract in the next hour about how to create walls that they are pretty much bulletproof. I'm talking about with a high caliber rifle without even, using any special fancy material. I'm sure you remember about that. It's
yes, my gravel wall construction that I designed really works.
You know what? Let's see if I have another 60 seconds. Let's, you have 2 minutes. Can you spell it out pretty much, the concept?
Yeah, the concept is that you can take even a 3.5-inch wall, a normal stud wall. I prefer to use steel studs rather than wood studs because, and then you fill it with 1/2-inch gravel and with plywood on either side of the steel studs. And literally you can shoot hundreds of rounds of .308 military-grade rifle, and a 3.5-inch wall stops it and keeps chewing up the rounds. It never degrades. It's tremendously inexpensive, and it works. It's a very powerful anecdote.
By the way, I tested out. It really works. And I need to do a YouTube probably about that. Listen, Mr. Skousen, thank you very much. And please keep us updated. And I'll be happy to have you anytime you want back on the show.
Yes, I'd like to do it again with you, Luca. Enjoyed this very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skousen. That was Mr. Joel Skousen, and you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on KTOX 1340 AM. Don't go away. Ready for hour number 2. It's going to be about guns, rights, and tactics.
I brought up the subject of what's going to happen after we take over the government. We become responsible then for administrating, 250 million people. And there was no answers. No one had given any thought to economics. How are you going to clothe and feed these people? The only thing that I could get was that they expected that the Cubans and the North Vietnamese and the Chinese and the Russians would all want to occupy different portions of the United States. They also believed that their immediate responsibility would be to protect against what they called the counter-revolution. And they felt that this counter-revolution could best be guarded against by creating and establishing re-education centers in the Southwest. We would take all the people who needed to be re-educated into the new way of thinking and teach them how things were going to be. I asked, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate, that are die-hard capitalists? And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill. 25 million people. I want you to imagine sitting in a room with 25 people, most of which have graduate degrees from Columbia and other well-known educational centers, and hear them figuring out the logistics for the elimination of 25 million people. And they were dead serious.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on United States.FM network. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on United States.FM network. Here we go. Hour number 2, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on KTOX 1340 AM and also on United States.FM network. Okay, guys, this is the hour normally, and we will talk about guns. And I would like today to mix it up a little bit. It's going to be 2 parts of this hour, and the first part I'm going to go through some news. Because it's important to understand, what's going on into this gun, I don't call it guns rights, I call it like human rights, but also what's going also with news, because, unfortunately the media and any one of us has a very important role in how we created this image for the gun owners population. Unfortunately, it's like, we are all different, and that's great. But at the same time, we all carry a responsibility, in my opinion, as individuals, also indirectly towards the rest of the community. Of course, I always say we are responsible, every one of us is responsible only for their actions, okay? There is not this sort of collective sense of guilt like they're trying to do. But unfortunately, it's easy to be manipulated, and the media, and more important, the people who have an agenda, they will try to manipulate mistakes, errors, and also negligences. For example, this is a news from a local paper in Kingman that was like a few days ago, April the 30th, in Golden Valley. A 39-year-old man from Golden Valley sustained a gunshot wound to the thigh. Pretty much was an accident. But how? Michael Cheshire accidentally bumped his .22 caliber rifle off of a table, and then when he caught it to keep it from hitting the floor, his hand hit the trigger. This is according to the Mojave County Sheriff's Office. Now, that's one of the most important things that I learned when I attended my first classes at Front Sight, okay? If your gun, handgun, rifle, doesn't matter, let's say it's falling because you may, your hands may be sweaty or whatever, it's falling from the table, doesn't matter. You never try to pick it up or try to hold it while it's falling. Let it fall. Unless it's some sort of a very old gun, single action, and you have it cocked. All the new guns, they have internal safety and also external safety, but even just the regular trigger safety, they are pretty much, they can fall and they will not shoot, okay? So, and they may scratch, whatever. But the problem is, the moment that you try to catch a gun that is falling off your hands, this is one of the most dangerous things you may do as a gun owner. This gentleman here, this man, is lucky that he's not dead, seriously. So we need to look at this like an experience to learn from mistakes. I'm glad nobody got hurt, but please, this is just a friendly tip, I'm nobody. I'm just a guy with the love to share what I know. Okay, so if your gun is falling off your hands or falling off the tables, don't try to catch it. Let it go. Seriously. Now, a lot of important things. There is another thing that I see when I go around. I drive, especially here in Mojave County, Arizona, in general, especially where people normally own guns. Arizona is a great place for that. These typical bumper stickers that you will see that they say, for example, we do not dial 911, I dial 357, or things like that. Guys, I'm not here to give you legal advices. I am nobody, I'm just a guy, but as a friendly, just input, okay? Without being a lawyer, just use your brain. Think about it. The moment that you put out a bumper sticker, like pretty much you say, hey, if you trespass here, you die here. If you steal here, you die here. Or, we do not need 911, we need 357. I do not dial 911, I dial 357. Think about what type of situation, first of all, you create. First of all, tactically, from my point of view, you will pretty much give the opportunity to the assaulter, to the criminal, to give an edge that now he knows that you're armed. And if he comes after you, he will come at least as prepared as he or she can. So you give already some sort of a tactical disadvantage. So if he has to come in your home, he knows that you're going to be armed, and so you will be armed too, probably. Number one. Number two, also, more important, or as important, the moment that you pretty much, put a sign like that, and you have, for real, in real life, God forbid, you have to defend yourself because somebody, let's say, is trying to break into your home, or any type of situation. Let's say even confronting you that you are driving with your truck and somebody's trying to hijack your truck or on the highway. Who knows? And you have to kill that bastard, okay? To defend your life. Guess what? You are in the wrong state, or you are in the wrong county, or in the wrong city, and with the wrong prosecutor. Guess what? And a good lawyer on the other side, first of all, you may face criminal charges because they may say, well, you are some sort of a psycho. You were looking for a confrontation. You didn't want to dial 911. You wanted just to shoot them with your 357. Think about it. And that's true. I mean, you give the type of advantage to be used against you. And then also think about it. Also civilly. Let's say criminally, maybe you may be lucky. But civilly, you can open yourself to more problems. Okay? So I'm not a lawyer, but I found this interesting little video that I thought would be interesting to share with you. It's very short, but it explains pretty much why I think, in my opinion, if you're a smart guy or a smart girl, a gun owner, you should not put this sort of signs. Okay? Let's see what they say. This is a real attorney, by the way, from the Texas Law Shield.
I'm Emily Taylor, and I'm a program attorney for Texas Law Shield. We've all seen bumper stickers on people's cars that say something like, keep honking, I'm reloading, or maybe a sign on someone's property that says, trespassers will be shot, survivors will be shot again. These signs and stickers are funny, they're cute, they make us laugh, but are they a good idea? What happens if you're in a situation where you have to legitimately use your firearm in self-defense? Well, as a former prosecutor, I can tell you that this sort of evidence could be hugely damaging. A prosecutor could take that sticker or that sign, show it to a jury, and try to inflame them and make them think that you are trigger happy, that you're crazy, that you are looking for your opportunity to shoot someone. This is a particularly legitimate concern when you have a close case and the weight of evidence between the defense and the prosecution is pretty even. The prosecutor could take the photo of that sign or that sticker on your car, show it to a jury, and it could tip the scales in favor of the prosecution. Now you're looking at a conviction rather than an acquittal. At the end of the day, these are cute, we can think that they're funny, but take them down, don't risk it.
Well, that was pretty good. I mean, I really enjoyed the information, and of course, she's also more articulate than I am. She's a lawyer, and she's a cute lawyer, by the way. So anyway, guys, this is pretty much my humble opinion. If you're a gun owner and you pretty much like these bumper stickers, maybe put it somewhere in a more private way. Put it on your car or the entrance of your door. That really is going to give you this advantage, in my opinion, also into the attorney's opinion. Now, another important news that I like to share with you on Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca-Zanna. The state of California is pretty much going to be the example of what America shouldn't be, in my opinion. But if people like it, that's fine, stay there. Only thing I really think is so scary now, not just with the different problems, the water scarcity that, by the way, was pretty much engineering by weather modification, that they control the weather, and guess what? They got the biggest water scarcity in history, but that's another problem. Now we're talking about guns. Not only in California, you're pretty much a castrated man or woman, you are a castrated human being. You cannot have more than 10 rounds magazines. Or, you cannot have any more lead ammunition to hunt. And, of course, you cannot have the evil pistol grip, no AK-47 style rifle, no AR-15. You're pretty much now going back down to they give you a slingshot, maybe, with a permit, of course. But now it's even worse. Now in California, there is also an interesting thing, that you cannot even have anymore a Swiss Army knife. It's considered a weapon. This is an interesting case. The 4th Appellate District of California Court of Appeal later overturned his conviction. Anyway, bottom line, this situation now is scary. You have a pocket knife like a little Swiss Army, and it's considered a weapon. I was shocked, but not really. After all, this is California, okay? So, guys, all I can say for the good people of California that they're really frustrated, and they understand that life is better than that. Move to Arizona. Seriously. There is still so much land here, And of course, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong. We have to fix a few things here, but at least we have a fighting chance to fix it. We have a fighting chance to still able to speak up. And more important, we are still free human beings, at least when it comes down to the Second Amendment. Don't get me wrong. We're still paying the rent to the government. We pay property taxes. We have a bunch of socialists still pretty much trying to infiltrate every aspect of our government. We understand. But there is still enough good people of us. We can stand the line together and retake our individual rights back. And when it comes down to the Second Amendment, in Arizona, the Swiss Army pocket, I don't even use that. I use directly a bayonet on me when I want to go around and to have a little knife or blade, okay? Just to keep myself, if I need to clean something. Guess what? This is the state in Arizona where still a law-abiding person. Law-abiding means that you don't have any type of felony convictions, okay? You can have every rifle you want, any gun you want, in your truck, in your car, on you if you want to, but of course always done properly. Properly means that if you have it on you, must be on your holster, conceal or open carry, doesn't matter, or on you is a rifle with your sling. That's very important. But you can have anything you want, pretty much, without permit. Permits are for slaves. Seriously. Think about it. You ask a permit, it's not anymore a right. It is a privilege. So, guys, move to Arizona, because after I found out that now in California the Swiss Army knife is considered illegal, I think you should pack your bag, leave everything behind, and try to run as fast as you can through that bridge and be here. Come here. If you come with the right attitude that we stand the line together and you don't want to change things to become another California, I love you as my brother and my sister. After all, I was a former California refugee. I mean, when I came from Italy, I landed, my first spot was Los Angeles. And I thought that was America. And don't get me wrong, it's not that bad compared to Italy. I did a good career in my business and I had great opportunities. But at the same time, that sucks when you compare California to Arizona for many reasons. Now, talking about other freaks, pretty much, government freaks, control freaks, there is a thing, I would like to call her a lady, but she looks like a thing to me. She looks like an alien, seriously. I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, this is just, honestly, go find out. Google her name. It's a Democrat, Rosa De Lauro. She's also Italian heritage. It made me feel very ashamed. Introduces key legislation that will affect your gun rights. Well, let me pretty much spell it out what she's trying to do. Last week, Mrs. De Lauro introduced H.R. 1745, the Support Assault Firearms Elimination. Such a bunch of lies. First of all, we don't have assault firearms. The firearms do not assault anybody. We have idiots that may misuse the firearms, and the real firearm considered assault weapon as a selective fire switch, okay? That means you can go from semi-automatic to full automatic. You don't have those. Regular people, you need to have a special federal permit, okay, to have that. So anyway, just a bunch of lies. But meanwhile, she introduced this H.R. 1745, the Support Assault Firearms Elimination and Reduction for Our Strict Act, to provide $2,000 refundable tax credit to anyone who turns an assault weapon over to a law enforcement agency. Depending on the market value of the gun, you could give up to get that $2,000. De Lauro's tax credit could be enough to pay for a new AR magazine and case of ammunition. You know what? It's not a bad idea. If you have an old rifle and they gave you $2,000, I guess what? We can get a better rifle with $2,000. Maybe she's not that bad. I love now Mrs. De Lauro. She's so stupid that she wants to give $2,000 tax credit. If I turn in an assault weapon, as she calls it, I can bring a beat up AK-47. Oh, okay, she hates the AR-15. Give her an AR-15. I can get some all beat up AR-15, and maybe I can get with $2,000 maybe a better rifle for sure. And she hates the AR-15, and like many anti-gunners, she has no regard pretty much our rights. Now, in her opinion, this is the opinion of Mrs. De Lauro, but I don't even know if she's really a woman, with all due respect, and I don't care if she's a man, a woman, between. The problem is that she's an evil person who she wants pretty much deny our rights of self-defense. And she says, there is no reason on earth other than to kill as many people as possible in as short a time as possible. Anyone needs a gun designed for the battlefield. Mrs. De Lauro, let me explain something. This is coming from a guy that still has an Italian accent. I wasn't born here. The purpose of the rifle, more important, the purpose of the Second Amendment, it wasn't about going hunting or for hobby or for sports. No, it is exactly to pretty much simplify it for your mind. It to protect us from evil bastards like you and all the people in government who wants to infringe on our rights. The idea was to defend this republic against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It was never about going hunting. An AR-15, by the way, is not even a best choice in my opinion. Yeah, he has 30 rounds magazine. Yeah, he has a pistol grip. So what? That's not even the main rifle I would choose. But still, the Second Amendment says the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Even if a former immigrant like myself can understand it, you, Mrs. De Lauro, Congressman De Lauro, you that have a degree probably in some BS, and you're a congresswoman, you should understand that. This is our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. So, no, our founding fathers didn't tell us what type of rifle we can have. We shouldn't even have any more that 1934 Gun Control Act pretty much limited the chance to have as a right the same full automatic weapon, the real assault weapons who our military have. We don't have them anymore, that right now. It's a privilege because you need to go through a Class 3A special federal license to have and pay a stamp of $200 to have the license to have a full automatic weapon. So this assault weapon ban, tax credit is a joke in every way. It's a joke because, first of all, it is a misuse of our tax dollar, more redistribution of stolen property from law-abiding working people, that we have to give now dollars to somebody that is so stupid that he wants to pretty much give up his rifle for 30 silver coins. That's fine. And more important, it's never going to fix the problem because the real criminals, Mrs. Congressman, Congresswoman De Lauro, they don't care about your stupid laws and your tax credit. The real criminals will keep their guns. Your criminals will steal more guns or will buy more guns in the black market. Okay? So it's insanity. Congressman De Lauro, you are mentally unstable. And I tell you this with all my heart. Okay? So this is a little bit more of news, and we can go through. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Now, we were talking about Baltimore. No, I never really talk on the air. The last week, all this Baltimore, and I'm not even going to go through the analysis of what's really going on. At this point, all I say, let's have the system, the jury and the judges, hopefully the judge and hopefully the jury, hopefully there's going to be a due process for everybody, okay? I don't want to take any side because I don't know all the facts. So let's just stick with that. But now, something very important. Let's look at the behavior of the mayor. She's a piece of trash. The mayor of Baltimore is an incredible criminal, in my opinion. She should be sued at least. To order the police to stand down. The police to stand down. That's pure evil. Now, think about it. That's your property. That's your lifetime business, your family business, your home. And you have a lot of police officers. They're there. They're ready to do their job. They want to do their job. At least they want to stop violence. I mean, the first duty of a peace officer should possibly be defend property and life. Okay? And this evil piece of trash, probably she got, I don't even know. I don't know what she got. All I know that she said, we also gave those who wish to destroy space to do that as well. So this Baltimore's mayor, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, pretty much said, let me say again, we also gave those who wish to destroy space to do that as well. And she gave the order to stand down to the police and to the officers who wanted to stop these criminals destroying property and also potentially injuring and killing people, innocents. So think about that. All I say, forget the mayor, forget about everything else. Think about the worst part. That's one of the most liberal states. Okay, Maryland. It is not exactly what you call Second Amendment state. So the people are disarmed. Most of them, they don't have a rifle. If they have a handgun, maybe. But think about now, move all this, move it to Arizona. Why doesn't it happen things like that in places like Arizona, or maybe Idaho, or maybe Wyoming, or Montana? Because the moment that these parasites, these protesters, I call them thugs. They are really thugs. I don't care. As I said, there is no excuse. Even if a crime was committed, first of all, we need to wait some sort of a jury to decide it really was committed. But even that, say, okay, these police, they were guilty. Guess what? You do not destroy some innocent, somebody else's property and living. I mean, many of these people have a shop, regular mom and pop shop, okay? You destroy the livelihood, the opportunity to pay bills, to eat, survive. This is so wrong. So let me tell you this, scumbags. I am nobody, but if that was my shop, and you were coming to try to destroy my shop, and I'm inside the shop, of course, I wouldn't tell you even how easy would be the decision to make. And every moment, every person stand up, even just one man or one woman, stand on top of their building, like happened during the Los Angeles riots, when the Koreans in the Korean market area, they were defending their property and their lives with their rifles, with these evil AR-15s. And they were able to pretty much deter and do the job that the police couldn't do. That's my point. I would have no regret. As much as I hate violence, you try to loot my property, to destroy and burn my home, I would put your 2 bullets in your chest so fast and easy. Seriously. I would pray for you after, of course. But then I would do it again, just to be sure you're down. Okay? Because this is so evil. So evil. And the mayor of Baltimore is an evil bee. I cannot say more than that, I guess. She's terrible. Because I would like to see if it was her home. If it was her business. So, my friends, this is the point. We need rifles. Handguns are okay, but I have my handgun just to fight my way to the rifle, okay? And I have my handgun because normally to carry a rifle all day long on my back is too heavy. So that's my point. So please, think about it. Unfortunately, what happened in Baltimore can happen anywhere else. And it's happening. It's happening in New York. It's happening in Los Angeles. So this is the time, okay? Time to start to prepare and to get really serious about train. Don't have just a rifle, let it there, sitting in your safe. Train, practice, do whatever you have to do. Now, talking about other news that really made me feel a little better, because there is so much evil. The famous Arizona shooter, Colorado shooter, that they happened in the theater. Guess what? The family of this situation, of the victims, try to sue the gun dealers to pay because this guy was using a gun. I mean, like tomorrow you buy a car from a dealer and you commit a crime with that car, and then they go after the car dealer. This is insane. Here we go. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. And this is the hour about guns. And as I said, a little bit of news and a little bit of training. Before we go ahead with the training part, I like to share with you, my friends, this is an act of love after all. I don't even get paid by these people because I want to bring you information that I really believe they're good, okay? The best prices on ammo, okay? If you need 9mm, okay, by the way, it's a great caliber. Read a study from the FBI that pretty much now they're switching back to the 9mm from the 40s Smith & Wesson. I believe it's great, my opinion. I love my Glocks 17. And the reason why, because especially now with the new generation 9mm, you can get great stuff. They open very well. And you can get high pressure ammunition, great speed, and penetration that you need. And remember, the handgun, after all, it is just a tool. It's a weapon to fight your way to the rifle, okay? So if you have a handgun, have your rifle pretty close. That's the bottom. But regardless now, we're talking about prices. I found the best price today online from a website I love to buy stuff from. Need to give me a discount. I'm going to call him. It's called sgammo.com. Okay, S as Sam, G as Golf, ammo.com. For example, the best price I found for 9mm for training. Okay, don't get me wrong. This I wouldn't use as a main round for self-defense. It is a full metal jacket. This round I'm talking right now. It's called the Brown Bear. It's from Russia. 115 grain full metal jacket. Ammo by Bernal. They're great. I mean, they're not reloadable, but you don't want to reload 9mm anyway. Don't waste your time. You get 10 boxes, okay, 500 rounds for $95. Okay, sale tax free if you are in Arizona. Don't you love that? So $95.90 for 500 rounds. That means less than $10 for a box. For training, it's great. And, that's why I say I like 9mm. You can train a lot. It's a really good price. So far, it's the best price for the best quality ammo to train with the 9mm. Now, if you're looking for 7.62x39, well, SG Ammo, they have also very good prices. For example, if you want training stuff, and by the way, they're good anyway. When you got full metal jacket, 7.62x39, that's pretty much a standard military round. You have 1,000 round of Wolf, Russian Wolf, for $229. Not bad at all. I remember when I used to buy this ammo for $80, a box of 1,000, but that was a long time ago. Anyway, and shipping is very fair too, $20, okay? So, sgammo.com. And by the way, in case you go there, tell them, by the way, I listen on Love, Guns, and Freedom, because I would like to have them as sponsor, seriously. These people, they're great. They got good prices, they're fast. It's a family business. I need to call them. Seriously, I think they're great. But regardless, the reason why I want to share this with you, regardless that this company doesn't pay me or not, because I really want you that you have your weapon and your ammo ready for yourself and for your family to defend your family, yourself in this country. Okay, so don't be cheap. Prioritize. Save some money on some useless vacation. You don't need to go to Hawaii one more time, or that cruise that pretty much is always the same tour around Mexico. You get sick every time with some sort of a dysentery or, bad water or whatever. You're going to get sick anyway. So buy a nice rifle and buy ammo, okay? 9mm and 7.62x39, great deal as SG Ammo. Now, we were talking about a little bit of training, okay? We got to go back into training. I love to train. More important, I love to learn. For me, the gun training, the rifle training, everything I train, it's a journey. It's like a challenge with myself. It's like, for many people, it could be almost, looking for their limits in their body, okay? For me, the same. When I try to learn and improve my techniques in handgun, in speed, in try to coordinate my movements to make them smoother. It's a challenge because, my mind can be very fast, but my brain needs to catch up with my mind. So that's the challenge. So anyway, today I'm talking about one of the chapters from my coming book, Handgun Training. It's an interesting, very simple book. It's more than 200 pages. I'm putting it together. It's called Defensive Handgun Training with Luca-Zanna, Volume 1, The Fundamentals. And in chapter 13, I talk about something that you should be probably already aware, but not sometimes many people know. Or many people sometimes do not know. Let's see if my grammar was right. Anyway, the bottom line is called chamber check, magazine check. Okay? When I go to the range and we shoot with friends, even people that have been shooting for a while, and we go into this sort of, competition, whatever we're doing, a little bit of a drill, I never see them checking the chamber. And the magazine, of course, too. The point is, think about tomorrow morning, you get up in the morning, you get your gun, you put it into your holster, and you go out. But you didn't check your chamber. And the moment that you carry the gun, you are pretty much made a decision that if you have to use for self-defense or to defend an innocent, you will use also lethal force. And of course you don't want to, because you're a good person. We don't want to kill anybody. But if we have to, we will do it. The moment that you pretty much cross that line, and you will engage the evil bastard on the other side to stop him. That's all we're trying to do. We try to stop him. We don't want to kill him. But the point, we're going to use that gun if we have that gun. He will be sure to try to kill you anyway. But are you so sure that your gun, your handgun, is around in the chamber? Are you so sure of pretty much of the status of your gun? What if instead of hearing a bang, you hear a click? So it's called the 3 seconds insurance. Okay, 3 seconds. I say 1 second insurance. Bottom line, every morning before you start to carry your gun, put in your holster, you should be able to check the chamber and the magazine of your gun. Simple as that. It's called chamber check, mag check. Okay, I tell you how to do it. Maybe you already know it, but let me share it with you. This is the way I learned it from site. Okay, and this pretty much works for Glock, Springfield XD, and basic similar semi-automatic. You start from the ready position. You keep both hands on the weapon and keep your finger off the trigger. Very important. Your weapon must be pointed to a safe direction and keeping it down to about 45 degrees. Okay. At that point, you bring the weapon closer to your body so you can have a better leverage and better control of your weapon. Okay. You don't want to have your gun away from your head. You want to be close under your head. Okay. Close to your body. You must keep your trigger finger straight and the muzzle always in a safe direction. The point number 3, you move your finger, the trigger finger, away from the slide. Away, that means away, okay? Don't keep it close. With your support hand, you want to pretty much grasp the slide and move it back about ½ inch. So you want to be able to see the chamber. This is so important. It's called chamber check. If you see some brass, means you're loaded. If there is no brass, means you're not loaded. Now, there are 3 different methods how to do this slide back. And if you're curious, go to my website, handguntraining.tv, where I give you free information. I'm not even teaching you. I just share what I know, okay? So there is a hand under, the wedge method, and the hand over. But I cannot go over the radio with these 3 techniques. You can just check them out. Anyway, once you have verified the condition of the chamber, then you pull the slide forward fully. Means bring it back into battery. Because sometimes happen that, especially with old guns, if you don't do that, boom, you're going to have a malfunction. Now, at that point, you must check the magazine. So, what do? You rotate the hand around the grip a little bit, if your hand is not big enough, so you can use your thumb to push the magazine release button, okay? At that point, you release your magazine, and you always want to index that magazine with your finger. If you don't know what means indexing the magazine, go to handguntraining.tv, okay? So important. Or send me an email, zanna@zanna.us. So, as you come back, this magazine comes into your hand, you're holding it, indexing it. You want to be sure the next round, sitting there, is good. And you want also double check how many rounds do you have in that magazine. Because sometimes, I heard strange, very funny little things. For example, somebody had a gun, and he forgot the day before he went shooting. He shot a few rounds with a friend just to impress him. And then he pretty much didn't realize that he had only 3 rounds left in his magazine. So, would you go to a gunfight with a gun in that condition? No, that's not good. So you want to be always top off. So, please, if you're a gun owner, law-abiding citizen, a gun owner, think about the idea to always perform a chamber check, magazine check, to be safe, to be sure you have a gun in the right condition you want it. Now, many people say, I like to carry my gun with a round not in the chamber. Well, that's your choice. I completely disagree, because the moment that you carry a gun, you made that commitment to carry a gun. First of all, you know that the extra second or whatever time you need to put a round in the chamber is going to cost you maybe your life. The moment that my gun is on me, it's in that holster, it's hot and loaded, okay? And that's it. And it's the safest place I can have, it's the holster. The point is, it's scary when I see people that are trying to do, I don't know what type of movies they watch, but they put this handgun in their pants or in their pockets without sleeves. Just, scary. Yeah, in that case, probably I wouldn't put around in the chamber, but that's not the way professionally, safely to carry a gun. You should always have a holster and a good quality holster, not this floppy stuff that, the Velcro, they're ridiculous. Get a good kydex or leather holster, okay? So when you have the gun in your holster, why you should have a gun without a round in the chamber? The round in the chamber must be there, available immediately, because a split of a second could cost you your life, or could cost the innocent life. So, guys, that's pretty much the story I would like to say. Try to get your handgun always in ready position. But, as I said, if you feel more comfortable to have a round not in the chamber, that's your choice. That's why this show is called Love, Guns, and Freedom. Freedom to be an idiot. That's your right. Okay? I said train, be responsible. If you're afraid to have a gun in your holster without running the chamber, it means that you're not trained enough. That's my opinion. But anyway, that's pretty much the story. Now, I would like to go with more training, because I think it's so important to run ideas to each other, okay? And as I say, guys, I don't know everything, but I'm pretty professional when it comes down to study. I apply myself. I feel that is a responsibility. As a gun owner, I have a duty to be better as I can, to be the best I can, okay? Now, one thing I would like to share, it is, first of all, we always talk about guns, handguns, but we need to talk about rifles. But what is important beside the rifle? If I had to go to the range, probably you don't need much. The rifle, it's plenty. You got your rifle, you got your bench, and you got your cigar, and you have one of your hobby. No, I don't go to the range for hobby. I don't bring benches, because I know the moment that I need to use that rifle for saving my life, or to defend this country, this republic, or defend my freedom, I don't have a bench. I will not have a bench on me. I want to become a rifleman. I am a rifleman. And I wish everyone is qualified at least with the Army qualification test as a rifleman. I'm not even talking about any type of tactical shooting. I'm just talking about basic marksmanship. So, if you have a rifle, doesn't matter which rifle you have. One thing that we always underestimate, because after all, we are not used anymore to think we are the last line of defense. We are the militia. Every one of us in the state of Arizona, according to our statutes and our constitution, we are part of the unorganized militia. If you don't believe me, go check it out. Google. Or if you don't want to use Google, use something else. Unorganized militia, statute, Arizona IRS. Okay? So anyway, the point is, if you have a rifle, you better have some gear to carry whatever you need for that rifle and to fight with the rifle. So, for example, let's say you have an AK-47, okay? You must have at least a vest or some sort of a pouch that you can adapt according to where you're going that can carry at least 150 rounds, okay? In the magazine, you got 30 rounds already in that rifle, and you need at least an extra 3 or 4 magazines. Depends also which situation. Let's say you are in a household at night. You have a handgun. Yes, great. But do you have also something to carry with you? Maybe extra ammunition. Or maybe you need a cell phone. Maybe you need a radio walkie-talkie to talk to your wife. Or maybe you need a little emergency kit. You must have a gear. You must have a little bag ready to go. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. But bring something that may fit the mission, okay? So, that situation maybe for the night, if you stay home. But let's say you have to go out and to face the hordes of the thugs. I know they don't like to call them thugs. I call them thugs. If you are a thug, you act like a thug, you're a thug. I don't care which color you are. It could be white, yellow, brown. You're a thug. So, if I get surrounded by the thugs, as plural, I want to have not just a rifle with a magazine. I'm going to have all my gear. That means my rifle with as many ammunition and magazines I can bring and carry. So there are different solutions out there. All I say, whatever you choose, don't let it sit there in front of the safe or in your bedroom. Test it. Go to the range with that. Okay? Unless you live in some funny states like, East Coast, New Jersey, New York. Okay, there is no range maybe that you can carry the stuff. They could call the cops on you. But regardless, if you're in a place you can train safely, carry your gear and test it. See, first of all, if it's comfortable. Also, see if it does noises. See if it's resistant. Okay? Because remember, the moment that you commit yourself to carry a rifle, and you go in the battlefield, could be everywhere, could be on top of your roof to defend your home, could be in the middle of the valley, doesn't matter. You must be ready to carry with you everything you need to try to survive and complete your mission. So, have a good gear. There are different solutions. I always like, first of all, by the way, surplus. Military surplus is good because it's military grade stuff. But there are so many other choices out there. You can also look on, can give you some ideas like Sportsman Guide, great website for surplus. Cheaper than dirt. They're really good too. So guys, that's pretty much what I'm trying to say. And do not forget the water. Because, sometimes we underestimate. You go out there and you think you have your ammunition, but do you have, first of all, water? How long are you going to last, especially if you live in the desert like we do? If you have to defend your life in the middle of the desert, or you're standoff against, surrounded by the hordes of thugs, you need to have a water. So, Camelback, great way. If you can afford $40 or less, get at least a couple of canteens, okay? That's very important. Now, another important thing to consider in your gear, always have a multi-tool. It's very important because you have a tool that you can use to pretty much do the basic operations in case you need to disassemble your rifle, even clean your rifle, okay? And another important thing, a little medical kit. Now, a little tip for people that would like to shoot, especially in an environment that's kind of desert tan color, especially if you live in an area like us in the Mojave County, there's a lot of sand. If you shoot a rifle in the middle of the desert, there are not many trees, first of all, to protect yourself. You can be spotted pretty easily. And also there is this, especially the gas ejecting gases from the barrel, the muzzle brake. It will give you a position away from a few hundred yards for sure. So I found a very simple and economical way to share with my friends how to create a very simple, light, shooting mat, and also ghillie suit for less than $7. It's called burlap. You go to Ace hardware supplies, or you go to Home Depot, wherever you want to go shopping, get the typical classic burlap, the one they use for, gardening. And what you do, first of all, you put like a rubber band with some stitches on one side of this burlap. So you can use this rubber band and pretty much hold the burlap, holding it under your neck, okay? That's very important. But more important, let's say you have to shoot in the desert. You don't want to create all this dust, especially if you have a higher power rifle. You be sure that you shoot with the end of the barrel exactly using the burlap as a mat. That really helps. And also don't forget, let's say that there is a lot of sun, it's hot, or maybe there is somebody trying to spy from you, try to spot you. All you have to do, you put your burlap on top of you. You hide under the burlap. If you already are in this desert area, just the regular color itself of the burlap is pretty good to have a good camo effect. But also if you get a little bit of creativity, get a little spray, and try to mix and match to see what type of vegetation you have, maybe add a little bit of greenish, guess what? You have a very good ghillie suit or ghillie vest, ghillie blanket, I would call it. It's a ghillie blanket for less than $7. Normally that's what they cost, $6-7, this burlap. So this is pretty much the idea I wanted to say, guys. I hope you enjoy my little tips, and I would like to hear from you, of course, because as I said, if you have any special questions about guns and training, anything, ammunition, tips, schools, everything I can tell you, I tell you from my heart. That's why I like to, when I talk about these topics, I don't even care about the sponsors, because the sponsor, then I need to kiss their butt. And I need to say, they are great. After all, they're my sponsors. No. In this way, I can keep the information really honest, because I don't like to say lie. Especially, I want to give you the best information. When I tell you about where to buy ammunitions, I don't even get paid by these people. I really tell you from my heart. Go to that place, sgammo.com, because they got the best prices on 9mm. I tell you as a friend. Now, as a friend, I also tell you, please, guys, I need your help. Because this radio show, it is not free. Times, energy, hosting, I put my love here. This is considered what my spare time in life. I could do many other things. I also could make money out of this, but I don't. I just do this as a love. But you can help me out, and I appreciate your help, and I tell you how to do it. All you have to do, you go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com, okay? There is a music section, okay? And you can find out there any of my songs. I wrote more than 100 songs. You can download just a song if you want, with 99 cents. Pick a song you like, and doing that, you can really help and support the show. And keeping it free, so I can pretty much don't need to stress out and think, I need to look for a sponsor. No, I'll bring you the information I think really is good, the best links, the best resources, because I really use them too. Also, you can go to another website of mine, Zanna, Z-A-N-N-A, art.com. Also, you will find out that beside the music aspect, I do other things, I do paintings, I have prints. I'm kind of the creative guy, okay? Besides shooting, I like to do other things too. So you can support the show with just purchasing something, because pretty much every time you support a song, I'm able to support the show. That's pretty much the story. So I wanted to thank you. I want to thank, first of all, Jay from Bullhead. Thank you, Jay. I know that you purchased my super special 4 CD set just this week. I really appreciate it. By the way, it was an incredible price. 4 CDs, all my collections of CDs for just $24.95, I guess, free shipping. And also I would like to thank Mary from New York to download several tracks from my album Don't Tread on Us. And also I have here Eric Savicki. I want to thank you, my friend, for sending me those 2 beautiful bottles of wine. I really appreciate it. By the way, I'm drinking it right now while I'm talking to you guys. This is one of the, I love this show. It is not because I look for notoriety or want to become a radio host. No, I love because I meet the best people. I feel like I'm really looking for like-minded people out there and learning a lot at the same time. And on top, look, I got also free bottles of wine from my friend Eric Savicki from California. Leave California, my friend. Come to Arizona. We can have all the wine together there. And then the day after, because we don't drink and shoot, when we finish drinking, the day after we can go to the range when we are fresh, okay? Okay, guys, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. I'm excited. Now we're looking for hour number 3. And it's the final hour. It's going to be very interesting. A lot of information. And my friend, Ronald-Odonnell, is pretty much suing a big monster bank. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on United States.FM network.
Here we go. This is luca-zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Well, I said luca-zanna twice. That's okay. Okay, guys, just to let you know, the purpose of this show, as I said, I'm not for any party. That's why I burn my Republican Party card, because I believe they are pretty much for dividing us. That's why I invite on this show any human beings, any American, men, women, or between, I don't care, who stands for freedom, who stands for the Republic, who stands for the individual rights, regardless the party affiliation, there are some Republicans out there that they think they are some sort of a savior of the country, and they are disgusting. And there are also some Democrats out there, they are more disgusting. But there are also some Democrats that they are great people. And I'm telling you guys, that's why I don't like to have any more this, or some sort of, they put us in these cages, Democrat or Republicans, liberal or conservative. No, I look at this as in 2 basic issues. People who support freedom and people who support big bankers and tyranny. Because after all, the bankers are behind all this, starting from the private central bank called Federal Reserve. Now, I already have with me a man from California that I respect a lot, and I'm glad that we met through the show because, we're learning from each other. I'm learning a lot from him about the banking system and what he's doing, and also that the fact that not every Democrat is a real crazy person, okay? There are Democrats out there that they belong to the generation of J.F. Kennedy, that they are patriots. They understand the concept of America, and they stand for the principles. That's why I welcome here my fellow Democrat, Ronald-Odonnell from California. How you doing, Ronald?
Really wonderful, Luca. And like I said, I'd still like to call you Zanna because of the song "Don't Tread on Us." When people ask me, how do you look up that song on the website? I tell them, just look under Zanna. It pops right up on the internet.
Great. And, thank you.
That's why I will always refer to you as Zanna, because I promote that song that you wrote, not because of the music, but because of the words.
Very good. I'm glad you like it, and I'm glad we found each other.
I like the music too, but the words strike me. You pretty much say it all. I had to explain just 2 days ago to a friend of mine, who is, by the way, one of the people I appointed to be on the California State Democratic Committee for the convention that's coming up, which we'll talk about in a minute. But he kept asking me, he says, what do you mean the wood is dry? Because I was telling him, listen to the words, listen to the words. And I said, well, you just have, your younger generation, you have to understand, when freedom has been dry and parched to the point that there's no more moisture left in it, then it'll explode. It'll explode. Combustion will just make it explode. And that's what I'm hoping that we're able to do now. We need to explode, just like we did when I was a young man. I'm 64 now, at the Democratic Party National Convention in Chicago in the 60s. It was people whose liberty and whose rights had been dried up and scorched and harmed for our entire generation. We're talking about slavery. We're talking about banking. We're talking about, involuntary servitude and loss of jobs and people losing their homes, even then.
Yes, of course.
And it exploded with Kent State, if you people can remember from, back in the 60s, 4 dead in Ohio, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, that started that band. That was in Kent State, Ohio, where the National Guard shot American college students that were protesting.
Yes.
One of which was from my town in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was the young lady that put the flower in the rifle that killed her.
Wow, amazing. I heard about these stories. And by the way, talking about that situation, it's true. We've been going through, every generation is going through levels of tyranny, and unfortunately it's not over. And that's why you're here. And that's why I'm so proud that, I call you my friend, even if we never really met in person, because you are not a typical, as I said, I do not believe in parties, okay? I believe in individuals, and I believe in what the individual is trying to do. I know you're trying to do most of the things that, you're trying to do, at least, they are based on facts, and they are based on the basic fact that we are not slaves, and we are not slaves of the banks. Unfortunately, we are, but we're supposed not to be. And you are, even sometimes we have little differences on some socioeconomic stuff. You are really a man of integrity, in my opinion, and that's why I respect you, and I really support you if you're running for state senate again, right? Please.
Yes, I absolutely am, and I'm on the ballot for the next election, and a lot of things happen. You remember when I ran against the Democratic nominated candidate.
Yes, I remember that.
And won.
Wow.
It wasn't me. I had the party against me, my own party.
I know.
The message that the people heard that permitted me to win. It was an honor. But it wasn't anything to do with me. It had everything to do with this message that you are saying in your song, Don't Tread on Us. I was saying it, but not as boldly as you stated in your music.
And I agree with you. No, the message is the most important than the messenger. Unfortunately, people change. The last generation, or even of every party, don't get me wrong. I think right now, both parties, they are controlled. And when you try to bring real issues about the rights that we're supposed to have. And the fraud that the bankers, they are pretty much perpetrating on the people. Another very important thing is you realize that both parties, they are controlled. Doesn't matter if it's the Democrat Party or it's the Republican Party. And when you have individuals like yourself that does not want to follow the orders from the central committees or from the central headquarters, guess what? You are going to become some sort of a very interesting man. And I mean, this is sarcastic because they pretty much try to stop you, they try to block you, they try to boycott you in every way they can. But guess what? The message, hopefully, is going to be stronger. Give us pretty much in 3 words, or at least the 3 focus points of your campaign, what you're going to bring for your constituents of your district if you get elected.
Well, I've told you in other shows, the first thing is I need people to understand that the documents that are in the county recorder's land records, 60 million of them, are fraudulent.
Wow.
And these and this is proven. I can prove it to anyone. There have been audits of the land records in a number of counties across America. Williamson County, Texas, San Francisco County, they audited their records and found just an audit, not just, it was a sample. It wasn't all of the records. They took a sample, random sample. They found that over 80% of the random sample in San Francisco was fraudulent. They hushed it up. Williamson County, Texas, went ahead, and the guy that did it was Dave Kruger. He has a great book, Clouded Titles. Anybody wants to can look it up. Mm-hmm. He did the Williamson County, Texas audit, and he did the judges in Williamson County, and they were surprised when they found out that 70% of the judges had fraudulent documents on their own land records. He didn't tell them in advance.
Wow.
He included the judges that were at the hearing, and out of 9 of them, 7 of them had problems that were fraud. And the judges are sitting there looking, and then those things, and when he was paid to do that audit by Williamson County.
Wow.
And he did Osceola County, Florida. They're now, their documents are with the FBI. So that's the very first.
So you want to bring, first of all, expose the fraud of the titles and pretty much the whole.
Because those documents are then placed into the federal courts and the state courts to permit foreclosures of land.
Okay.
Against people like the Bundys.
Wow. Do you have a good life insurance?
Well, absolutely.
Good, because, that's very important. You're touching things that, let's put it this way, a lot of people, they're going to get mad just because you're talking about these things.
They're already mad. But can I tell you?
Yes.
Number 2, let's
go.
Yeah, we're talking land records, illegal foreclosures is number 1.
Yes.
Number 2 it's called O'Donnell versus Chase Bank.
Yes.
J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. It's a federal lawsuit in federal court right now here in Riverside. It's actually called the Central District of California, but if you look it up, and then there's a Riverside division, that's our desert out here, in front of Judge Bernal. And the issue in that is the illegal tactics that the banks are using on credit card fraud.
Wow.
Across the entire nation. In other words, if you look at your credit card agreement, you will find that they can increase the interest on your credit card from the initial offering rate of 3.0%, remember? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there with 30% over a period of a year or two, and they creep it up from 3.99% to, I think, goes 7.99. Then it goes 12.99. Then it goes 18.99. Then it goes 21.99. Wow. Then it goes up to 24.99. Then it goes up to 29.99. And then under law, they can't go any higher than 30.99.
I don't think even the mafia goes 29.9 anyway. But wow, This is
the
good.
mafia gives you a better rate. If you need better money than that, call me.
Yes. And by the way, I remember we broke pretty much the news. The day before was the weekend before you were going to file this federal lawsuit, and I was so proud that you were with me sharing with our listeners your situation. That was amazing.
Indeed, I did file, and that was back in November or December. I can't remember.
Yes, a few months ago.
And we're still there, and we're fighting like hell. Next hearing is May 5th, so I doubled the life insurance policy.
Good. Now, point 3, go ahead.
Well, point 3, the one thing that I really want to do is free our students in America. They're suffering from what is called a student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
The banks didn't lend them that money. The Treasury Department lent them that money.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know that. These students don't know that. But what happened was the bank got the money from the federal government at 0.25%. That's less than 1%, a quarter of 1%. And then they lent that money to the students at rates of 8.99, 11.99, 12.99, depending on their quote-unquote credit rating. Treasury Department money, taxpayer money, designed to go ahead and get our students to college so that they can have some kind of a future.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government isn't making any money on that. Well, actually, they are making about $30 billion. But that's only a slight percentage of what the banks are making. The banks are making the majority of that money. The federal government is going to make $30 billion. That's all you hear about. At 0.25, 1/4% interest, yet the banks are making the other 10 or 11 or 12% interest, and no one talks about it.
Wow. And, let me put it this way also. Listen to me. I believe that every family, people used to work here, and the other generations, the last generation at least, I heard stories. I wasn't from here, but I heard stories, the young man or young woman wanted to go to college. They study, they save their money, and then they are able to, unless the family is rich, of course, or wealthy, to acquire, through sacrifices, their student loans or even their education. Now, of course, it's become a little more different. And don't get me wrong, I'd rather to have, if we have to give money to, let's say, for example, the latest news, Obama administration gives $128 million of our tax dollar to pro-abortion groups around the world, okay? Why should we give money to other countries or to finance other countries when we have people that they are without homes, they lost their homes, or even better, they can even afford education? I'm not for socialism, but I'll tell you something. If I had to give money, our tax dollar, I'd rather to give it to our people in America. They deserve it more than maybe some other organization around the world. Did you know about Obama giving April the 10th was the news was broke, $128 million to pro-abortion groups? Did you ever heard about that?
Yes, I do know that, and let me just comment on that, if you allow me.
Yes.
One of the proposals that I would like to make would be on our platform, on our Democratic Party platform here in California, is that absolutely no money goes anywhere to anyone outside the state, including if Arizona, that may follow this legislation that I intend to introduce, that no money goes outside of Arizona unless the needs of all of Arizona citizens have been met first. And I don't mean the illegal aliens. I mean the American citizens in Arizona. Their needs are met. That we have no homeless citizens, no homeless veterans, no homeless orphans, no homeless senior citizens. We have 46 million people on food stamps in America, and they're cutting back now on food stamps to American families. So where do we have money to be sending any money anywhere?
Exactly. I mean, this is exactly my point. For people that they are Democrats and you believe in Obama, let's look 1 second at things, okay? We may sometimes disagree in socioeconomics, that's fine. But for logic, one thing I think we should be agreeing, why we have an administration that is supporting and funding with our tax dollars pretty much countries around the world that pretty much all they have to do, they have to go straight to China themselves and ask and for a loan, because what we do now, every time we spend $1, it's $1 of debt that we have to go through or the private Federal Reserve to get more in debt, or to go through China. So, for example, another example here is Obama in 2013, he gave $1.3 billion in more military funding to Egypt, and that's just a little example. And now Ukraine, I forgot how many billions of dollars we are giving to them. Meanwhile, as you said, we have our people, veterans without homes. We have students that are pretty much struggling. If we have to use these tax dollars, let's start with something. Let's keep it at home. I agree with you completely. And then,
I don't know if that's the Democratic approach, but if it isn't, I intend to make it a part of the Democratic Party here.
And I understand, you are, as I said, a different type of Democrat out there. Just the fact that you use the legal word, what's supposed to be illegal aliens. These people are not migrants. I was an immigrant because I went through the embassy and I went through the port of entrance called airport, and I came with a visa. So you can call me migrant if you want. But people
did it properly.
Exactly.
I believe that there's a proper way to achieve immigration goals in the United States if we have them.
Exactly. So
we do not have them.
If we need them.
You know what? You're going to be surprised to find out. And anyone else listening to this show, what they don't tell you about is the people from the Middle Eastern countries that are being flown here on American taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
As immigrants, and given immediate welfare, housing, medical benefits, claiming that they are refugees, from the Middle East, and we don't know about it. They don't talk about it. All they do is they talk about the illegal aliens from Mexico and Central America.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes is an equal amount of people that are coming in on chartered aircraft, military aircraft.
Yeah.
First-class tickets on, I can't afford a first-class ticket on an airline.
This is true. We've been invaded, and this is part of the plan, and there is something more. By the way, we have 3 more minutes. I know you're very strong, first of all, as a Democrat, kind of unusual on the Second Amendment, and I applaud you for that. That's why I really believe that you're a different type of breed of a Democrat. You are the old-fashioned, what I used to call...
I believe in gun control. And here's my meaning of gun control.
Tell me, please.
We take all the guns from the criminals. What I mean is the cartels, the drug cartels, the, known criminals.
Okay.
And just hand them to the honest American citizens and make sure that every American citizen has a gun in their house to defend themselves.
Great.
Gun control to the fullest extent of the law.
Excellent.
Our existing laws, we don't need new laws for that. Our existing laws, there is enough gun control. We're not allowed to have criminals walking around with weapons. All we have to do is enforce the laws that we have. But to take guns away from American citizens and make them defenseless, I will never go along with.
Good.
And not because... I'm a big Second Amendment person, okay? Although I am. It's because of common sense.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
We have to defend ourselves against these criminals. There's not enough police to do it.
And, unfortunately, that's the first layer. You're right. But there is, I fear that there is one more layer of things that we should be concerned. I hope I'm wrong, but as I said many times, we are facing tyranny. And now all this is pretty much coming to a point that is in our face. JL 15, this example of martial law, I would call it. Did you hear about Ontario? In Ontario, California, there was the National Guard pretty much on the streets, practicing and doing exercises like the American people, in this case they were actors, they were pretty much the enemies.
Yep.
So that's pretty scary.
My only comment on that is it's real. Don't kid yourself. They're not spending hundreds of millions of dollars in ammunition for domestic military, like the National Guard, unless they're prepared to use it. There's never been a bullet that's never, ultimately been utilized. That's an old saying.
Yeah, you're right.
If they make a weapon, it's going to get used.
You're right.
When they made the nuclear bomb, they prayed, that we would never have to use it. Well, they used it.
Yes.
So there will never be a weapon that doesn't come out of the end of a rifle.
Ronald, how people can support you? Do you have a website? People can want to send you a donation or just, help you out volunteering for your campaign?
The easiest one is if people look up foreclosureammunition.com. And from there, it goes on to other websites.
Okay. And I
would like to announce something if I have a minute.
Go ahead, please.
When I started, I had no one. Well, I didn't win, right?
Yes.
But I did finally get on to the San Bernardino County Central Committee and the Riverside County Central Committee. And from that, I was able to get on the California Democratic Central Committee for the entire state. Mm-hmm. And I had the opportunity to appoint people to go ahead and get on the California Democratic Central Committee. Guess who's on there now?
Who?
Okay, I have, an old friend of mine that I helped him, get on the sheriff's department. Mm-hmm. He's the state of California now, law enforcement, Jared Fish. But I actually helped him. He painted my house to get enough money to go to school. Just to give you an idea.
Wow.
We go back from the time he was a kid. I have Bianca Benavitos, who is a legal secretary getting ready to go to law school. She's only 24. She is already on the California State Central Committee because of me. I appointed her. She's out of Orange County. Jared Fish is out of San Bernardino. I appointed Lenore Albert. She's a federal appeals attorney from Orange County, California, Huntington Beach. She's never a Democrat. She turned Democrat. 1 week later, she was on the California Central Committee on account of me. And then, of course, I'm on there. And my alternate down in San Bernardino County is George Alfono. I didn't have any of this when I ran before.
Wow, that's great. I mean, I'm glad that, this is true. But the message is what is important. People understand.
They join because they know what we're talking about.
Exactly. You're not just the typical politician, try to say the right thing before the elections and then pretty much being part of the establishment. That's why I support you.
It's the message.
And you hear, and you talk about very serious, important things that nobody really wants to talk normally, okay? The danger of these private bankers, that they pretty much took over our government and they rule us by fraud and by illusion. Listen,
exactly. And the wood is dry.
Yeah, the wood is dry, and I'll play for you right now part of the song for you, and I'll dedicate "Don't Tread on Us" for my friend Ronald-Odonnell, and I'll pray you're gonna make it to become the next.
The march is May 15th at the Anaheim Convention Center.
Okay.
On 777 Convention Road on Friday, May 15th, and I'm asking anyone, regardless of party, to be there because the entire leadership of the state of California and the nation is watching.
Wow.
The nation is watching. I want everyone who has a cause for freedom, whether it be Second Amendment, whether it be Jade Helm, whether it be whatever your position is, we already have lined up television stations, radio stations that are going to be standing there in the front of that building along with me, and my wood is dry. And that's what we're calling it. The wood is dry.
Ronald, what I'm going to do, I cannot be there, but I will send you 10 of my CDs, Don't Tread on Us, as my little support for the campaign. And
I'm sending you... They're 99 cents. I'm sending you $50 for 50 of them. So pack up 50.
No, but I want to give you 10 also out of my pocket as my gift. Okay, if you want to buy more, I appreciate it.
So I can get them out to people.
Okay.
And ask them to listen to the words.
And you got 10.
I'm going to give it to Elizabeth Warren. She's a guest speaker at this convention.
Wow.
I'm giving one to Barney Frank, who did the Yeah, he's going to be there, and I'll be sitting at his table, both of them. I'm giving them one. I'm giving one to Gavin Newsom, who's our lieutenant governor, to Nancy Pelosi, who's our House Democratic leader, to Alex Padilla, who's the Secretary of State. He's from down here in my district.
Oh, gosh.
I want to give every one of them.
Okay, listen, you got 10 on me free, okay? These are my contribution.
And I'm getting 50 more.
And that's great. I appreciate it.
I have that today.
Well,
I got your website.
Don't worry about it. And we'll talk after on the phone. Now, meanwhile, let me play Don't Tread on Us, and I'll dedicate it to you and to anybody else who support freedom in California. I love you.
And may God bless you, Zanna.
And I'll bless you too.
Everything that you do to try to help people. And don't drink the coffee.
Don't drink coffee. Go right, my friend.
That's hard.
Okay, guys, this is great. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna, and this was my friend Ronald-Odonnell from California, and this is Don't Tread on Us, and I dedicate it to you, Ronald, and to anybody else out there, any Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, I don't care which party you are, who believes in freedom. Thank you, guys.
Wood is dry.
The wood is dry. Here we go.
Don't tread on us, we're not afraid. You work for us, we're not your slaves. Don't tread on us, you cross the line, soon you will pay for all your crimes. After a long train of abusive and usurpation, now we've lost our patience. Yeah, you're trying to kill our Constitution, to kill our pride. Now the wood is dry. Yeah. Don't tread on us, we're not afraid. You work for us, we're not your slaves. Don't tread on us, you cross the line, soon you will pay for all your crimes. You keep on pushing us into desperation. You'll only fuel our determination. Yeah, it's been way too long since the last time, 1776. Now we're done with your tricks. Don't tread on us. Don't tread on us. We're not afraid. You work for us. We're not your slaves. Don't tread on us. You cross the line. Soon you will pay for all your crimes. Don't tread on us. Don't tread on us. Now it's payback time. Don't tread on us. We're not afraid. You work for us. We're not your slaves. Don't tread on us. You cross the line. Soon you will pay for all your crimes. Don't tread on us.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
and a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth,
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Luca-Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Luca-Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. And interesting news. You know, I talk with my guest last few weeks about the Jade Helm 15, a very disturbing situation that's happening not just in Arizona, but also in Texas and other almost 10 states. Among my Facebook friends, and also as my guest that I had here on the show previously, I have a great lady that I really respect a lot because she's trying to do her best, try to do her best for herself, but more important for her state, and more important for her next generation. And she's from Texas, of course, and she's really involved not just with, of course, her movement of declaring independence for Texas. We'll talk about that again, but also very interesting, she's really involved also a concern about the Jade Helm 15. And I watched a YouTube video that was pretty much important because it was exactly in the heart of all this drama going on down in Texas with a city council meeting, I guess, where, let me just talk to her because probably she's going to tell us more details. Kimberly York from Texas. Kimberly, are you there?
Hi, I'm Luca. How are you?
I'm okay. And first of all, I wanted to remind my listeners, you've been on the show with me previously, about the Freedom Lovers website, and really enjoyed the experience to interview you and to know you a little more, because you're not just fun lady to be around, but also you're very dedicated to the cause of freedom. And tell us a little bit about, first of all, what's going on right now in Texas, and which part of Texas exactly are you right now?
Okay, first off, I live in Big Spring, Texas, and which is sort of one of the centers of Jade Helm. And we've gotten a lot of press lately, they're telling us that helicopters are landing on our Walmart, which is not true. Mm-hmm. We have had extra military vehicles seen in the area, but they're not landing on our Walmart, and our Walmart's not closed like they say they've been saying. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Jade Helm is actually from one side of Texas to another, and it's in, I can't remember how many cities. There's like 15 different cities it's going to participate in. And they're just not being real honest with us, and they're telling different areas different things, which has got a lot of us really concerned here in Texas.
Yeah, and Quest, I watched the YouTube. I was so proud. I was cheering you up when I saw the YouTube that was pretty much where this representative, I think it was a former special forces guy that now is a contractor, of course, is a private mercenary working for the government, and he was trying to pacify and give you guys in the city council meeting that everything is going to be okay, and we need these exercises, and we need your support, and pretty much this is going to be just because the private property owners, it will invite you, or the city will invite them. And what exactly happened? I know there were a lot of people who were kind of concerned, and you spoke too there at that event.
I did speak, and actually nobody else spoke. I was hoping we'd have some more speakers get up because we filled the room, actually. We were given about an hour and a half notice that he would be there.
Wow.
And so we got online and we started telling everybody, and we actually were able to fill the room. We weren't able to ask really questions or get them answered during the council meeting. They wouldn't allow it, but they let us go outside later and talk to him and try to get answers, which I didn't get any answers. I asked him stuff like, why is Texas considered hostile? And he said, because we have we don't follow the federal government laws. And he said, there's Tea Partiers and secessionists there. I asked him, who are the enemies of the state? And he just looked at me and said, and I said, no, I don't know, tell me. And he just danced around it and never answered any questions, really.
Wow. This is something disturbing happened just a few weeks before this JDALM 15. Remind me and give me the more details, because maybe I'm not going to be very accurate. This group that you are part of, I guess, this group that it's for the independence of Texas, they were having a meeting, private meeting, I guess, and somebody pretty much broke in the middle of this meeting and started to collect information and IDs, and like you were doing some sort of committing a crime. Is it true? I mean, can you remind us exactly what happened?
That actually wasn't our group that was involved with. That was another independence group called the Republic of Texas.
Okay.
And so I don't know exactly the details of that happened, but it hasn't happened in our group, the Texas Nationalists.
Anyway, reading the news was disturbing enough. Bottom line, there was a bunch of citizens, of Texas. They were exercising their First Amendment right. They were peacefully having a meeting and talking, discussing about politics, I'm sure. And what the news reads, what I read in the news, pretty much they were federal agents completely surrounding this meeting and breaking in and started to collect IDs and almost like they were criminals there. That's what the news I read through some different articles of different outlets, and maybe you know more about that. I think what do you think?
I'd read a little bit about it, and I had talked to some people that it was something to do with property had been seized for non-payment of taxes, and the Republic of Texas, I guess, issued the judge a warrant or something, a subpoena to appear, and then that happened. So I don't know exactly what happened with that, since it is a different group.
Anyway, the interesting thing, though, that it seems like Texas is pretty much in the heart of, in the eye of the cyclone, of this hurricane. I really support the idea that every state, I'm so disgusted when the American people forgot that the 13 independent states, colonies at the time, created the federal government. The federal government didn't exist, before. And was like you create Frankenstein, and then pretty much when you say, you know what, I'm not going to be part anymore of this, because for many reasons, I think every state had the right, especially at the beginning, to pretty much, when the federal government completely becomes corrupt and doesn't represent anymore the identity of this republic, what is supposed to be this union, they had the right to succeed if they want to. And Texas, correct me if I'm wrong, used to be a republic before even was part of this United States, correct?
Yes, and we also have, gained our independence once before to fight against tyranny, and that's what we're looking at again, we feel like.
Yeah, and I think it's very sad when you force a state to stay with you, not because by example or because you're doing the right thing, but with force. That's why I'm not a fan of Abraham Lincoln. I know that probably is going to be very politically incorrect, but I think he was the first tyrant, because it has nothing to do with slavery. It had to do pretty much with the destruction of our 10th Amendment and the destruction of the concept that the independence of the states, and that pretty much was the first act of tyranny on U.S. soil, in my opinion, according to history. But of course, now Abraham Lincoln, is the winner, so pretty much they wrote the story, the history. But anyway, what do you think? You think it is, according to what you see right now, the voices, was this the general sentiment of the average Texan, at least in your community, about this JDALM 15? Are they happy? Are they supportive? Or maybe they are concerned?
We're feared. People are very upset. There's a lot of talk about it. Our city councils and our county commissions are being questioned. I read the county next to us had a meeting today. Martin County and Stanton is also involved in this exercise, and there were people meeting there today upset with the fact that It supposedly came to our city council meetings and our county commissioners asking for permission and invitation in, and they offered that invitation without talking to the people. And so the people are pretty upset because we were not included in that decision.
Yeah, that's for me exactly what you said is the most important thing. Let's say if the community at least, would have a chance to decide, okay? First of all, yes, I would like to have the information. Then they must decide. After all, this is your community, guys. These little wannabe, kings acting as mayors or city council, only God knows really what happened behind closed doors. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but something's wrong. I don't know if they're just completely idolizing, having some sort of submission towards these federal, agencies, or maybe they got paid off. I have no idea, but this is wrong. I mean, these people should be all recalled. This is something so big, such a huge event in your community, and you tell me that the city council members or the mayor did not have a meeting, special meeting, before they committed themselves and the resources of the town to this huge, very questionable event. I mean, this is disgusting, especially, for something that you think they may be smarter than that. After all, they're not exactly like in New York or some other part of the East Coast. I mean, people, they're pretty aware of what's going on there, I guess. So, any other thing you think is going to happen the next couple of days, next few days?
No, but we're going to be keeping an eye out. There's a group of us that are keeping a really close eye out. There's so much stuff being said that's not true that we really want people to really know what's happening. So we're keeping a close eye and are reporting stuff that are true and stuff that's not true. We're telling people, hey, that's not happening, or yes, this is happening. And we're going to continue to do that.
Exactly. So, Lisa, please keep us posted. I really appreciate your activism. It means being active. Don't be afraid. Don't be lazy, because we must monitor these things. Maybe just a dry run, and that would be bad enough, because we know very well, Kimberly, the federal government, as much as kind of incompetent in many areas, they do not commit and waste millions and millions of dollars for just the training exercises if they don't intend to use it in the future. But the problem is, look what's happening right now, in Baltimore. I mean, and they let it happen, by the way. It didn't happen by accident. They let it happen. They won this crisis. Only God knows really what they're trying to prepare this summer for us. So maybe dry, maybe hot, maybe wet, how they call it. Something may happen, but it's already happening. That's the point. At least I pray for you, and I pray for us, of course. And please be safe there in Texas. And I pray really that Texas may find his new identity. Maybe that would be great to set example to the federal government, and maybe one state out of all the 50 states, or 52, as Obama said, maybe we need to remind that the union must be preserved by leading by example, not by coercion and violence. So I wish Texas the best, and if Texas ever is going to become independent, I will emigrate to Texas as a new citizen of Texas, if you want.
That would be great.
Maybe you give me special pass at the customs, okay?
I will.
All right, Lisa, thank you very much, Kimberly. Keep me posted, please, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. This was Kimberly York from Texas, and, please, we need to keep eyes on this JDALM 15. If you have any other news out there from anybody, any part of the United States, these United States, please give me a call, or better, send me an email, zanna@zanna.us, or go to lovegunsfreedom.com. And remember, when I say these United States, we forgot. Originally, the Constitution and the documents of our founding fathers were called these United States, because they were, the 13 colonies, and they were these. Now they call it, the last 100 years or so, the. That says something. And go to investigate. There is a lot more than what it seems to be. Okay? The point is, we're supposed to be a union of individual states. Now it's becoming a big, complete dissolution of our sovereignty, of our state rights, and we are decentralized, fascistic federal government that is already pretty much ruling by power and violence and intimidation. Now with the JDALM 15, what I'm concerned, it may really be pretty much to set the example that who is boss. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Don't go away. A little bit of music, and talk to you soon.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret. They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit FreedomLovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really click.
Here we go. This is the final part of the show. It's the end for today. You'll be listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna, and I want just to remind you to go to freedomlovers.us. Yes, it's the free community where you can pretty much meet and find like-minded people from around the world, not just from America. For example, there is a new member that, by the way, the membership, it's free, as I said. It's a special former military guy from Belgium, said that he's a special forces, and is 44. He's looking to move to America. He's a conservative guy. He believes in freedom. He believes, of course, in the Second Amendment. He's 44. He looks like Rambo, honestly, and he's looking for a serious relationship on maybe an American lady. Great opportunity. So have fun. Please go to freedomlovers.us. You can find men, women, and between. Okay. Now, regardless, the last phrase of the day, I would like to remind you. I pretty much came out with this phrase this week. Government is like a baby. More he eats, more he gets bigger. More he gets bigger, more he gets hungrier. More time passes, more government will control our lives. Every year, no matter what government, city, county, state, federal, always the legislators have their holy mission statement to keep creating new laws. If I would be able to write a law, just one law, one more law, I would write this law. Any government cannot pass a new law until it removes at least 2 old laws. Otherwise, it will grow exponentially, like a virus, will multiply itself until it kills its host. This is luca-zanna, and talk to you next Sunday, God's willing. Ciao.